Hello again guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're testing out two different mods at the same time. We'll be flying the Cessna Citation CJ4 Working Title mod into Meigs Airport. I'm sure that most of you are already familiar with Meigs, but for those who aren't, Meigs Airport is a pretty legendary airport among the flight simulation community, as for many years it was the home default airport in the Microsoft Flight Simulator series. Unfortunately, many years ago now, the airport was closed and the runway eventually dug up. Luckily for the flight simulation community though, Z Design Studios has been very kind and recreated Meigs with both a payware and freeware version. So today we'll be reliving a little bit of nostalgia by visiting the freeware version of Meigs. We'll be departing from Sawyer International, which is on the northwestern shore of Lake Michigan, following the lake down towards the south via the western shore, and coming into Meigs in the Cessna Citation CJ4. We're ferrying the aircraft from Sawyer to pick up a couple of VIP passengers at Meigs itself. As always guys, I do hope you enjoy the video. If you do, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. If you have any comments or questions for me, please leave them down in the comment section below. But now let's jump into the cockpit of the CJ4, we'll get the aircraft started up, and we'll depart for Meigs. So welcome to the cockpit of the Working Title Cessna Citation CJ4 mod. We've just got on board the aircraft. All we've done so far is turn on the battery and set up the flight computer for our flight this morning. That being said, we're all ready to go now, so all we need to do is run the checklist. Before start checklist then, battery switch is on, emergency light switch is armed, standby flight display switch is on, avionics switch is set to dispatch, parking brake is on, wheel chocks have been removed, and the cabin door is closed. Passenger briefing, we don't have any passengers on board this morning, so that's complete. Seatbelts and pedals are adjusted and secure. Exterior lights, will turn on the nav lights and the beacon in anticipation of the start. ICAS. So currently we have an oil and fuel pressure warning indication, which of course we would expect with the engines currently shut down. We also have a battery and oil pressure caution, which again we would expect with the aircraft in its current condition. So the ICAS is checked, FMS is checked and set, climate control is off. That's the before start checklist complete. Starting the engines then, the throttles are at idle. We'll start the left engine first, so left engine start. And we'll keep an eye on the engine indications as the engine spools up. So we have N2 rotation, N1 slowly increasing there, oil pressure slowly coming up as well. Looking for around 23% N2 before we introduce the fuel.
Troy 173, proceed as requested.
And just coming up on 23% N2 now, so we'll set the engine to run.
Your helipad, keep you away from midway.
Looking for an ITT increase. N2 continuing to rise, as is the N1. There's the ITT increase. Oil pressure and oil temperature coming up nicely, and of course monitoring the engine to make sure that we don't bust any parameters as it spools up.
Okay, sounds good. We'll just work in. There's just one target, 3 southeast and 2 southbound along the shoreline.
Waiting for the engine to stabilise, which should happen at around 25.5% N1. So the engine looking good. We'll start the right engine now. And looking for all the same indications as before. Checking the ICAS, we just have the starter indication there. All the other indications have gone out now that we have power from the left engine. N2 coming up, N1 rotating. Oil pressure slowly coming up. And just coming up on 23% N2. So we'll set the engine to run. Again looking for an ITT increase.
Troy 173, descent to 3 to maintain AIRBUS 3,500 for now for traffic on the midway final.
So there's our ITT. Oil pressure and temperature coming up nicely now, N2 continuing to increase. And again waiting for the engine to stabilise around 25.5% N1. So we have two good starts. External power has already been disconnected. Electrical system is checked. That's the starting checklist complete. Full taxi, avionics switch on. Climate control selector to normal. Passenger lights, safety button and seatbelts, we'll turn those on even though we don't have any passengers. We'll just leave those on through the entirety of the flight.
At this time,
trims.
comply with the illuminated seatbelt and no smoking signs.
So elevator trim is in the green band. And all the trims are set for the takeoff. Flight controls. So we have full up, full down, neutral, full left, full right, neutral. Speed brakes are stowed, and the flaps. Today it's a flap 0 takeoff, so we have flap 0 selected, flap 0 in the FMC, and flaps 0 indicated. Hydraulic pressure is checked. Engine anti-ice we won't require for the initial departure, but we'll probably require that later on during the climb. For now we have it set off though in the flight management computer. Takeoff data is set. Avionics checked on. Autopilot, so we'll set the autopilot up for the departure. We'll be departing on runway heading initially, which is 014. Climbing straight up to our cruising altitude of flight level 200.
173, the next control have lower, reference that Travis, contact approach 128.2.
And we'll set the flight directors on, heading and flight level change. Climbing at V2 plus 20 initially, so a speed of 141.
Okay, 173, the traffic's 11 o'clock, 5 miles, southwest down to Midway, southwest 737, keep descending at 3,000.
Yeah, we have 141 set. So autopilot set. Altimeter is set 3001. Pressurization is set. ICAS is checked. And the aft divider doors are open and latched. Taxi checklist, so we'll turn the taxi light on. We'll check the brakes and the nose wheel steering on the taxi out, as well as the flight instruments. So that's all the checklist now complete to the before takeoff checklist. We'll hold that there, and we'll carry that out at the holding point.
Okay.
Unfortunately we can't call air traffic control as currently it's IFR conditions at Sawyer, so they won't be able to give us clearance, and we're not going to use IFR air traffic control. As I mentioned many times now, I find it to just be too clumsy in Microsoft Flight Simulator currently. Anyway, parking brakes off, we'll swing out to the right to avoid this ground trolley. And we'll keep an eye out for the aircraft on our right.
Skywest 1365, reduce speed to 210. Cargo left 73, Juliet Heavy, Chicago Pro, 250 ILS, runway 28 center.
So, clear of him. All we need to do is taxi straight ahead initially, then we'll take the first left, followed by the first right. That'll take us to the holding point for runway 01. As you can see, there is a little bit of contamination on some of the grass areas of the aerodrome, but again the taxiways and the runway itself look to be perfectly clear, so we won't need the engine anti-ice for the departure. Do a quick brake check. Brakes are good. All clear on the right. We'll slow the aircraft down slightly for the turn.
Skywest 1365, descending 4000.
Instruments look good. So continuing straight down here, we'll take the next right and that'll lead us out to the holding point for runway 01. As you can see, there's a pretty stiff breeze here. There's around 15 knots straight down the runway currently. For the departure brief then, we're departing off runway 01, runway heading initially. After 500 feet we can start a left turn out towards the south. Climbing straight up to flight level 200. No requirement for a flat retraction today, however at 2500 feet we can bring the power back to the climb power setting. Again, just slowing the aircraft down slightly for the turn. And now we just follow this taxiway down to the holding point, which you can already see out ahead of us.
Start of that 73 Juliet Heavy, turn up heading 100, reduce speed to 210.
So we'll bring the aircraft to a stop momentarily at the holding point, and we'll continue with our before takeoff checks.
121, 0 knots greater.
So part brake on. Full takeoff checklist, ice protection systems and rudder bias trim. I'm not quite sure how we check those, or indeed whether we can or not in the working title mod, so we'll say that they've been checked. Seats are upright, outboard and secure. Flaps are set for takeoff. Speed brakes are stowed. Trims. So once again, all three trims are in the green band. Crew briefing is complete. TCAS can go to TARA.
Start of that 73 Juliet Heavy, just going to maintain 4000.
Radar will leave for now. There is some weather on the departure, but it looks pretty benign. And again, the weather radar in Microsoft Flight Simulator tends to overpaint rather a lot, so it'll just be in the way more than anything else. Go around button push. Again, I'm not quite sure what that's referring to there. I presume we have a go around push button on the thrust levers. We'll ignore that step for now. Battery amps are checked. Ice protection systems not required. Pitot and static heat can go on. Exterior lights, we're just about to enter the runway, so we'll turn those on now. So landing, logo and strobe lights on. ICAS is checked, and that's the before takeoff checklist complete. So for the takeoff today we'll use 95% N1, we won't set the N1 bugs, and we'll be rotating at a speed of 121 knots. So the takeoff checklist complete. Now we have the after takeoff checklist, so we'll obviously hold that for now. We're all ready to go, so the park brake can come off. Again, we won't call the tower unfortunately. Checking that it's clear visually on final, and it's clear upwind as well. Again, the wind straight down the runway, so it should be a nice easy takeoff. Let's confirm that we're lining up on runway 01. One last check of the approach path.
1365, turn left green 360.
And we'll depart on the roll, so we'll just get our aircraft turned onto runway heading, bring the engines up, allow them to stabilise, and take off. So there's 95% N1, thrust is set, 80 knots, V1, rotate. Coming back on the stick. Hammer up. There's positive climb, gear up. And we'll climb away at a speed of 141 knots initially. So pitching for that, trimming the aircraft.
Yes, West 92 ILS 6 center.
Aircraft's pretty much trimmed now. We'll set the autopilot. Your damper can go on as well. And we'll continue the climb up to 2500 feet. We'll start the turnaround towards the south. There's 2500 feet. We'll allow the aircraft to accelerate. And we'll come back to climb power. We use around 90% N1 for the climb. keeping that heading coming round to regain the flight plan track. And we'll set flight level change of to 50 knots below 10,000 feet. So flaps are up, we are just entering some cloud now. Just a few wisps down at this level, so we won't bother with the anti-ice just yet. And you can see we're turning back round towards the south. We'll run the after takeoff checklist. So landing gear is up, flaps are up, throttles are set to climb, yaw damper is on, autopilot is on, ice protection systems are set, and the passenger lights button will leave on. Landing lights can come off at 10,000 feet, pressurisation is set, and the altimeters will leave until we're passing flight level 180. So that's the after takeoff checklist complete.
Go 1565, 300 center.
So just leaving Sawyer behind us right now, we have picked up a tiny little bit of icing on the aircraft, as you can see there. Just coming up slightly on the thrust again. And the CDI bar moving back towards the centre, so we're going to nav now. So we have LNAV 1. And we'll set the heading bug to line up with our CDI for now. We'll adjust that once we're on our heading. The aircraft just coming to the left to intercept the CDI course there.
Go 1365, 7 miles from Sage, 4,000, check to 3,000 for the South localizer. 60 ILS from Quick Center, reduce to and maintain 173 knots.
No auto thrust, of course, in the CJ4, so we're having to manage the thrust manually at the moment, which is one of the things that I really enjoy about the aircraft. It's quite hands-on, but it still has a very decent level of automation if you do want to just sit back and relax.
Direct 123 heavy traffic approach, Quick Center.
Just bringing up our flight plan information on the navigation display.
American 821, 170 knots or greater, close base, good kind of clear tower station, 120.75.
Unfortunately, with the cloud cover, obviously we're not going to get much of a view on the way down towards Chicago. On a nice day, we get a really great view of Lake Michigan, pretty much following the western shore all the way down our route.
Turn 73, Juliet Heavy, turn right heading 180.
So just about to pass through 10,000 feet. Once we do, we'll turn the landing lights off. Taxi light can go off as well, and we'll allow the aircraft to accelerate up to a speed of 295 knots. So the aircraft levelling off as it allows us to build up speed. And again, just managing the thrust manually to maintain around 90% N1. And once we hit our selected speed of 295, the aircraft should start climbing again all the way up to flight level 200. There we go, you can see the vertical speed increasing once again.
Got a 5122, reducing to 210, then just going to maintain 4,000.
And we're climbing all the way up to a flight level, so we'll set the standard 2992.
Got a 5122, turn left, 2100.
That's standard set and cross-checked.
Turn left 73, Juliet Heavy, turn right 250, 28 center localizer.
You can just about make out the shore of Lake Michigan there off at our 11 o'clock. We might see a little bit more of it as we head down south just before we pass up into the next cloud layer. As far as that cloud layer goes, we'll see how we go, but it looks like we'll be in that if we level off at 20,000 feet, so we might climb a little bit higher just to clear that and avoid sitting in that particular layer, icing up all the way down to Chicago.
Got a 13, 6500, 7 knots to stake, guitar stake, 120.75.
Anyway, we'll just continue now here in the climb all the way up to flight level 200. We'll head outside the aircraft, hopefully we'll see at least something on the way down towards Chicago, and we'll come back to the cockpit just before the top of descent into Meigs. So welcome back to the flight deck. The good news is that we've just reached our top of descent point. Unfortunately, the bad news is that the weather has really closed in around the Chicago area. O'Hare is currently reporting 2 miles of visibility, overcast at 2,300 feet. That's way below the minimum that we need to head into Meigs this morning. So unfortunately we're going to have to head to an alternate. The best option currently in the area is Chicago International Airport, Kilo Golf Yankee Yankee. The weather there currently is actually quite reasonable. It's 10 statute miles, overcast at 1,400 feet. As we're descending down to an altitude, we'll set the QNH now, which we said was 2984.
Runway 1, 23 headed, just going to maintain 5,000.
So QNH is set, 2984, set, and cross-checked. And coming up on 18,000 feet, which means we need 72 miles to run. Currently showing 65 miles, so we're a little bit shy there, but we're doing quite a decent descent rate as I mentioned. And later on obviously we'll be descending back into the cloud layer, so we'll have to take the engine anti-ice once again. Whilst we're still nice and high, we'll brief the ILS then. So it's the ILS runway 30 at Kilo Golf Yankee Yankee. We'll tune that up now, it's 108.75. Looks like the box has already auto-tuned it for us. The final approach track is 306, I believe it's 308 in the box, but close enough. Aerodrome elevation is 597, we'll call that 600 feet. It's a 3 degree ILS with a profile check at waypoint WASTU, 2,000 feet. Down to the MDA of 791, we'll call that 800 feet to make life easy for ourselves. This approach is climb runway heading initially to 1,500 feet. There'll be a left turn climbing up to 2,400 feet towards the Charlie Golf Tango Warthog for the hold. In terms of the terrain, there's no significant high terrain around. The MSA is 3,400 feet. We'll be coming in over the water as well. Just again, the slightly raised aerodrome elevation. In terms of the weather, that's the really significant factor. Most of the airports around the Lake Michigan area are pretty socked in with weather right now. Gary, as I say, is the best option, so we'll keep an eye on the weather forecast there to make sure it remains suitable. Fuel we've already spoken about, we've got about £3,000, we're burning roughly 2,000 an hour, just a little bit less. So we'll be arriving into Gary with well over an hour's worth of extra fuel. In terms of the landing on runway 30, just manual braking, manual spoilers, we'll have to remember to do that, and vacating off to the right. Landing distance is more than sufficient at Gary, however, potentially some contamination around with some snow in the area.
Got a 122, caution for turbulence, you'll follow a heavy 747 on the final.
Again, slowly coming back on the thrust.
Skyline 122, reduce speed to 170.
We'll soon be passing through 13,000 feet, which means we need 52 miles to run. Coming up on 50 miles now, so already things starting to look better.
Okay.
We'll carry out the descent checklists. So pressurization is set. Ice protection systems, we'll turn those on now as we are going to be entering the cloud layer fairly shortly. Altimeters are set. Exterior lights, we'll turn the landing lights on at 10,000 feet. And that's the descent checklist complete.
Skyline 122, turn right 180.
So back into the cloud we go.
Altitude.
1,000 feet to go, approaching 11,000 feet. As I said, we'll level off initially at 11,000, allow the speed to come back.
Turn to 17328 heavy, reduce to and maintain 170 knots until Saitek at Saitek. Contact the air tower 120.75.
So the aircraft's starting to level off as we capture 11,000 feet. You can see the speed reducing. As soon as we're below 250 knots we can start our descent again. And we'll come down to 3,400 feet for the MSA into Kilo Golf Yankee Yankee.
Boy 3890, Chicago, going to maintain 11,000,
So turning overhead now, the Golf Charlie Oscar VOR out towards waypoint Wastu. There's 11,000, speed's 250 knots.
Mark 123 heavy, just going to maintain
3,400 feet set.
Boy 3890, 23, once I'm happy today, it's going to bust double 3.
And we'll get the aircraft coming down again. Around 1,400 feet for now. 11,000 feet, which means we need 44 miles, currently about 40. So it's still just a touch high. And we don't want to fly directly to waypoint Wastu. So in a moment we'll peel off to the left and come in on a downwind for runway 30. We've already got the ILS superimposed on the HSI.
Taylor 5122, turn right heading at 250, follow the heavy Boeing 747, caution right turbulence, get to the approach to open.
So we're coming to heading now. There's heading.
Taylor 5122, the speed is your discretion, tower marking 120.79.
And we'll select ILS 1 on the HSI display. Through 10,000 feet so the landing lights can go on.
Boy 3890, turn left heading at 290 to 628 center. Turn mark 123 heavy, maintain 210 knots of journey.
Just passing in and out of the clouds. Airframe's still looking nice and clean currently.
Turn mark 123 heavy, turn right heading at 250 to 628 center to 5.
And we have 23 track miles to run to the ILS. Of course that's a direct distance. So we can probably start easing up on that descent rate now. Passing through a little bit of rain as you can hear on the windshield. Just bringing the thrust back up slightly to maintain around 250 knots.
Boy 3890, you're 16 from window, cross window at 9,000 more above, and just yellow position.
I won't bother trying to do a direct 2 with the flight plan. I've been having a little bit of trouble there. It might just be user error. I'm not entirely familiar with this type of FMS, but certainly what seemed logical and usual to me wasn't really working correctly. It was just making a mess of the flight plan, so we'll leave the flight plan as it is, as we've already got Wastu as the active waypoint.
Mark 123 heavy, you're 4 miles from Hazel, maintain 3,000 miles to your traffic, so localize it for the ILS.
And it does look like there's a little bit of ice forming on the leading edge of the wing there. Hopefully the wing anti-ice will deal with the worst of that. Speed creeping up again there as well. Come back off the thrust.
123 heavy, maintain 180 knots per greater. Take when you get to take the tower is 120.75. 3892, 10 knots per greater.
Let's say we'll descend all the way down to 3,400 feet. That's the MSA into Kilo Golf Yankee Yankee. We'll head on a right-hand downwind for runway 30. We'll pass waypoint west too. Once we're about 10 nautical miles out, just a little bit further, we'll turn back round to join the ILS.
Envoy 3890, maintain 180 knots per greater to Saitek. The tower Saitek is 120.75.
It is possible that if we become visual early enough on the approach, we could consider breaking off the approach into Kilo Golf Yankee Yankee and continuing on towards Meigs, but we'll see what altitude we become visual at.
Yeah, 50 9 right? Yeah, transport 32, 670, 628.
We'll start running the approach checklists. So landing data has been confirmed, crew briefing is complete, avionics and flight instruments are set. Minimums, we probably can set that on the PFD, but I'm not entirely sure how we do that, but we know the minimums are 800 feet off the altimeter. Fuel transfer selector is off. Exterior lights are set. Ice protection systems are on. And we'll hold the checklist until we get onto the ILS. Keep easy off on that descent rate. Ideally we don't want to be levelling off. The wing's still looking reasonably clean.
Air transport 32 at 670, just maintain 11 down.
There's 5 above.
1111. Shell 5039, it is 210, control clear.
We're approaching what the aircraft seems to think is the top of descent. I'm not quite sure what that's predicated on, but definitely something a little bit awry there. So you can see we're almost passing a beam, the airfield now. Still not visual with the ground just yet. Not expecting to be though. We'll get an updated forecast for destination just to make sure it's still usable. Still 10 statute miles, overcast 1400 feet. So if we do get visual before 1400 feet,
altitude,
we'll consider just breaking off the approach and continuing around the bay towards Meigs. Of course, in reality, we'd have to ask for air traffic control's permission to do that, but again, we're not using that today in the sim due to its various issues. So it's less than 1 to go. Still raining outside by the sounds of it. And still no visual with the ground. Wings still looking good.
Here 356, today 3210, That was 5039, just want to maintain 3000.
So if we level off at 3,400 feet, we'll need to track outbound just beyond 10 miles on the ILS to get us below the glide slope, and as I said, we'll make an inbound turn towards Wastu and intercept from there.
Here, 356 is going to maintain 3,200.
Once we level off, we'll let the speed start to bleed back. We want to be around 220 knots when we start the turn. Glide slope just coming in now.
That was 5039, 180 knots or greater, turn right to the 180. Air transport 3206 heavy, turn left on 300 and 58 above. Turn left on 300 intercept.
So through the glide slope, we'll start our turn back towards the airfield. As I say, we'll let the speed come back. We want to be at flaps 15 with the gear down before we intercept the glide slope. Just come back on the thrust slightly more, the speed not in a hurry to come back there. Maximum speed for the gear is 200 knots.
That was 5039, turn right on 240 and up to center, 40 from the side window.
And the ILS is identified, correct sensing. Coming onto a nice heading for the intercept now, so we'll arm the approach. And we have glide slope armed. There's 200 knots. Just coming onto the localizer now by the looks of it. And we should capture the glide slope shortly. There's the glide slope. Take the gear down to help with the speed. There's gear down.
That was 5039, return for the legal approach to center.
And we'll take flaps 15.
Here 356, turn left on 360 to 180.
Approach checklist M, flaps 15 is set. Passenger briefing has been completed. Seats are upright and secure. Seat belts are adjusted and secure. Passenger lights are on. Pressurization is set. That's the approach checklist complete.
That was 5039, hold 180, turn up to Saitek. The power when it gets there is 120.7%.
And we'll take flaps full. Allow the speed to start coming back to the approach speed, which we said was 116. Full landing checklist, landing gear is down, 3 greens, flaps 35 set, speed brakes are stowed, airspeed will come back to VREF, autopilot and yaw damper will disengage later on. Let's see before landing checklist complete. So it looks like we should probably be able to fly up the bay visually here, so what we'll do, we'll go out.
Altitude.
That'll level us off. Come back up to 2,000 feet. Gear can come up.
Landing gear. Landing gear.
And we'll start retracting the flaps. And we'll try and follow the bay around visually for Meigs. Again, in real life, obviously we'd have to coordinate doing all of this with air traffic control. So come into heading.
Air transport 3206 heavy, you're 15 miles from Windsor, cross window 900,000, but ILS 28 center approach, maintain center 59.
Now we'll just quickly go down into flight plan. We'll put Meigs back in the destination. Just help us visualise. Runway 36, we'll go with a 10 nautical mile final. At least now we have that on the flight plan, we can use that to help us navigate. And worst case scenario, if we lose visual again, we'll just come back round for the ILS. Flaps can come up. We'll maintain around 200 knots. And we'll come down to 1500 feet, just to make sure we don't go back up into the clouds. So you can see our 10 nautical mile final into Meigs there.
Sierra 356, report 0.6. Sierra 356, you're clear for the approach to a center of the tower with the markers 120.75.
Definitely right on the limits of what we can really achieve here, but seems to be working out okay. We'll level off at 1600 for now, that seems to be good enough. Speed's a little bit fast there, so we'll come back on the thrust. Just continuing to follow the contours of the bay. And we'll start the speed coming back again as we're approaching our 10 nautical mile final.
Ready 2765, just going to maintain 5 knots.
Really miserable day here on the shores of Lake Michigan.
Ten 432 at 6 heavy, release 60, Dennis.
Again, the flight plan hasn't quite sequenced correctly there, but we can look visually. We've got about 10 miles to run, looking at the range ring on the navigation display.
Ready 2765, 210 not the greater visual location. Ready 2765, continue descent, maintain 3,300.
No sign of the runway just yet.
Ready 2765, turn left at 330.
In terms of the fuel, still got about 3,000 pounds on board. So plenty of fuel if we did have to break off this approach. If we do, we'll definitely be continuing back to Gary. We won't be trying again for Meigs.
Ready 2765, turn left at 310 in a situation.
The weather opening up a little bit for us here. It's looking promising. Yeah, I just make out the shore. Can't quite see the runway yet.
2785 yesterday.
It's coming to a heading of about 350. Meigs is out there somewhere. Take the gear down again. And we'll take flaps 15. I think I can just see the runway lights now. And we do have the runway in sight, that's great. So just remembering manual braking, manual spoilers for the landing, and disconnecting the autopilot.
Got 1365, Chicago approach, center.
Just come a few degrees to the right there. The weather just closing in again a little bit. We'll take flaps full. Just raise our seat position slightly to allow us to see the runway a little bit better.
Autopilot.
Disconnect the autopilot, we'll fly the rest visually. And we'll let the speed come back to VREF.
Troy 173, proceed as requested. Your health has keep you away from Midway.
So we just about managed to work our way around the bear there towards Meigs. Looking good on the profile at the moment.
Okay, sounds good. We'll just work in. There's one target, 3 southeast, 2 southbound along the shoreline. Troy 173, defense approach is maintaining at about 3,500 for now for traffic up the waypoint.
A little bit bumpy. Looks like we've got some traffic out to the north as well. That's checked. We are configured for the landing. A little bit fast, a little bit high, correcting on the profile.
173, next solar have lower reference at Travis, contact approach 128.2.
And this is a site I haven't seen in a long while, very welcome. Hello Meigs.
Troy 173, the traffic's 11 o'clock, 5 miles, southwest down to Midway, to southwest 737, descending out of 3000.
So coming back off the power.
Okay.
Let her settle down quite firmly with the possible wet runway. Spoilers up, crosswind wanting to kick us out to the right there, correcting that with rudder. And braking. Not the smoothest landing, but given the conditions, I'll let myself off. So slowing the aircraft down, we'll take the next left. We can get rid of the spoilers.
Skywest 1365, reduce speed to 210.
And clearing the runway. Just momentarily bring the aircraft to a stop. Flaps can come up. Taxi light on, landing light. And strobe light can go off. We'll make our way out towards the terminal area.
Cargo 173, 28 heavy, Chicago approach, 50 ILS, runway 28 center.
And the offline checklist, speed brakes are retracted. Flaps 0. P-turn static heat can come off. And the engine anti-ice can come off as well actually.
Skywest 1365, descending to 4000.
Bring the thrust up, keep us rolling. Size protection systems are off, radar is off, exterior lights are set. Seems to be the end of what we have in the checklist. Rather a nice Grumman Goose parked up there. We'll just take this next bay on the right. Should keep us clear of the bus. Get the taxi light off.
Cargo 73, Juliet heavy, 73100, reduce speed to 210. American 821, 210 knots or greater.
And bring the aircraft to a stop. So park brake on. No APU of course in the CJ4, so we'll just shut down the engines.
Started left 73, Juliet Heavy, just going to maintain 4,000. 1365, turn left 3360.
Oral warning, okay.
Climate control can come off. Beacon can go off, as can the logo lights. We'll turn the seatbelts and the safety warnings off. Avionics can go back to dispatch. And there we go. Rather an eventful flight, but a very enjoyable one. We did just about manage to get the aircraft to Meigs to pick up our VIP passengers. We'll wait here for them to arrive at the terminal and then we'll be on our way towards our destination. So there you go guys, I do hope that you enjoyed our little adventure into Meigs Airport. Obviously the weather not really playing ball there. I was actually hoping to have us arrive on a lovely sunny day so that we could take in the Chicago scenery. But it did make for quite an interesting arrival and we did just about manage to pick our way through the weather around the shoreline towards the airport. Both the Meigs scenery and the working title Cessna Citation CJ4 mod are really good add-ons. I highly recommend going and checking them out. The working title mod in particular is really amazing. It's pretty much the closest thing we have to a study level aircraft available to us in Microsoft Flight Simulator currently, alongside the fly-by-wire A320. The developers have done a really amazing job, and actually just after I released this video they released another update. Anyway, as always I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. If you have any comments or questions for me, please leave them down in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. But for now, thanks very much and I'll see you all again soon.